Welcome back live. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Mythicist Milwaukee Show, a special edition here at 12 o'clock, high noon. We are keeping an early Eye of Horus on the secular movement today. I'm your host, Rob Moore, the Deacon of Doubt in these parts, and it looks nice outside, but it sucks. It's like 40 degrees and windy, even though it's pretty and sunny today from downtown Cream City, where we do our little podcast every week, and it has been determined that our highest building in Milwaukee is, in fact, a smokestack. So congratulations for that. With me, as always, is my co-host. He's the friar of free thought. He's Brian Edwards. What's going on today, Brian?
I'm excited to talk to Baba Brinkman, who I was listening to earlier, and I've learned some stuff. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, he is soon to appear at Reason Rally, and we've been heavy on Reason Rally guests, specifically to promote that upcoming event, June 4th, in Washington, D.C., where all of us will convene and party like lunatics on the lawn. He is a Canadian rap artist, award-winning playwright, and former tree planter. All right, we'll talk about that maybe. I'm a landscape guy, so that interests me. He's into sustainability, perhaps, and some forward-thinking things like that, along with the other million things he does. He's personally planted more than 1 million trees. How do you have time for that? Jesus. To date, Baba has written or co-written 6 hip-hop plays which have toured the world and enjoyed successful runs at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival and off-Broadway in New York. His newest play, The Rap Guide to Religion, recently concluded a 6-month run at the Soho Playhouse, where it was nominated for a Drama Desk Award in the category Unique Theatrical Experience. Baba has also released 10 original rap albums on his independent label Lit Fuse Records, including most recently The Rap Guide to Wilderness and The Rap Guide to Medicine. Please welcome from Manhattan, Baba Brinkman. What's up, Baba?
Hey, guys. Great to be on the show.
Man, thanks for carving out a few minutes for us today. We really appreciate it. We're in for a long day of podcasting our own self, and we understand you're in the middle of something. What do you got going on there in Manhattan today on a Sunday?
Well, I'm coming to you live from the Northeastern Conference on Science and Skepticism. So this morning we had Jennifer Lopez, not J-Lo, but the one that's an astronaut speaking for NASA and their International Space Station science experiment project. And Michael Mann, the climate scientist from Penn State, spoke this morning. Bill Nye's here, Jamie Ian Smith, Richard Wiseman, and tonight I'm performing my Rap Guide to Religion show at the Fashion Institute of Technology here.
Wow.
That's awesome. How many songs do you do in a show set?
I think that one might be 7 or 8 songs, with sort of comedy interludes in between, telling the story of the new field of the scientific study of religion, evolutionary religious studies. Where does faith come from, and how did it become part of our species' behavioral repertoire?
For those who don't know, Baba has a YouTube channel and other media outlets where he provides rap songs which include scientific content, and they're educational in nature. They're actually incredibly informative. I've listened to a few of them myself, and it's great work that he's out there doing. How did you get into that, Baba, and why not country?
Well, it was a weird trajectory that made me this sort of science and skepticism rapper, but my background is comparative literature, so I did a master's in medieval lit. I wrote a thesis on the Canterbury Tales, and for years I was the guy that rapped medieval literature, and I had a rap version of the Canterbury Tales.
Nice.
I was touring that in England, and then a biologist saw it, and he said, do you think you could apply that rap format to explaining natural selection and Charles Darwin's legacy, which I thought was an awesome challenge. So I wrote the show Rap Guide to Evolution, and within a year, suddenly I was like the advocate for rationalism and science. And, I hadn't even really heard of a skeptical community or any of that when I started the project. I just thought Darwin was cool. And the people that reached out to me and said, we love this, were the skeptics and the atheists and rationalists. So it was great to find out that there were all these kindred spirits organizing under a banner, which I just wasn't even aware of before that. So that's what I've gotten into more and more.
Wow, so this really came from a challenge from a professor that you really just took to the nth degree.
Yeah, it was like a nice timing thing, because 2009 was the bicentennial. It was like big Darwin year, 200th anniversary of his birthday, and 150th anniversary of the publication of The Origin of Species. So there's all these Darwin events being organized, and this prof reached out to me maybe 7 months before the big Darwin Day thing he was organizing, and he said, I need entertainment for this event. I have a budget. I can fly you here and pay you for the gig, but what you need is material about Darwin. Can you write a bunch of Darwin-themed rap songs over the next 6 months? And I was like, that sounds like a pretty good plan. So I put it together, and then it turned into this whole tour, and ended up went to Broadway, and I did a 5-month run off Broadway perform for about 10,000 people in New York, and it was just an epic couple of years of being the Evolution rap guy. And then, recently I've just been parlaying that into other science communication shows. So Rap Guide to Religion was on last year. I'm doing a new off-Broadway show now called Rap Guide to Climate Chaos, all about the sort of science and psychology of dealing with global warming. And, we'll see what's next.
Wow.
Did the off-Broadway show invite, or did it attract like school tours and stuff, or were you playing to the audience, to the choir? Or
mostly it's just, it's the theater going public in New York. It's very random. Like whoever, they look up online, like what's on tonight in New York, and my show's up there along with Hamilton and The Lion King and Phantom of the Opera, and certain kinds of people are like, Rap Guide to Climate Chaos. That sounds intriguing. Let's go check it out. And, a lot of people who come through are part of climate activism or sustainability, or green tech or things like that. But a lot of people are just like curious theater goers. And then, we've had some school groups come, and then when I'm not doing it off Broadway, then I'll take it to college campuses or conferences or places that are more preach to the choir. But I'll do it wherever there's a crowd. I'd love to go on a tour of red states and try to convert some climate skeptics with it.
It wasn't necessarily born as an effort to reach elementary school age children, though. It sort of organically arrived at where it's at, and now plays to a larger audience. It sounds like. I'm just trying to get my head around the aim of it.
I got an ethic with this, and it's the same with the evolution one and the religion one and all that. And I feel like if I ever wrote something for the purpose of educating school kids, it would die. That's as far as it would go. Maybe it would get used in the classroom, but that's it. But I actually really like being a sort of public science communicator. So I have to write to a standard of entertainment that's going to work as an off-Broadway show. So like the tickets to my show are like $35, $40, which is, not expensive for New York theater, but it's expensive for like, I'm going to spend this money on just going to a show that's going to entertain me. And if it feels like the pitch is elementary school level, then people are going to feel like they wasted the money. So it's got to feel like a comedy show, feel like a big, exciting entertainment experience. And it just happens to have a whole lot of information behind it as well.
Now, what's your musical background, and why did you choose rap? Was that always your music that you preferred to listen to? Are you a musician? Do you do some of the parts on the very well produced songs? Do you write the poetry only? How much of the music do you do? What's your background there?
Well, I don't really have any musical background as a musician. I don't play any instruments. So now I work with producers, and they write the beats and I write the lyrics, and I find collaborators and musicians and singers and people to work with me on the hooks and the melodies. And I listened to rap since I was 10 or 11 years old. So, it's always been my genre of choice. And I started rapping myself at 18, 19. But for me, it was more actually a poetry thing. Like I was into writing poetry. I was reading a lot of poetry. I did a comparative literature degree, sort of reading all the poets of the English literary canon. And at a certain point, I was like, this is why rap is amazing, is because it really is a literary art form. And, it's rich with metaphor and narrative and, allegory, and all the things that make us study Shakespeare are fully present in rap. So what I want to do is be a rapper that sort of, represents that view of what hip hop is and is capable of.
Well, it's a rap-oriented Reason Rally, and let's plug that for a minute before we let you get out of here. Are you looking forward to that? What do you think of that whole thing, and how many people you think you're going to see there?
Yeah, well, I'm pretty excited. I'm checking out the roster, and I never really had a chance to poll the ideologies and religious beliefs of rappers, but it was pretty awesome to see the whole Wu-Tang representation for Reason Rally. I think if you actually went around and interviewed every rapper, you'd get a lot of them that identify as rationalists and skeptics. Mm-hmm. But it's only something like the Reason Rally that gives them an opportunity to sort of to strut their stuff on that front. And I think it's great that that's happening, and people are coming out of the woodwork. It's 10 years ago, it might have been that people were more in the closet about that, so to speak. So just excited to see it have its moment.
Right. Were you asked to be at the Reason Rally, or did you want to get out there? I mean, where was the interest, inbound or out? Which way do you want to go?
Well, I think I met one of the organizers at a gig that I did like 6 months ago, and they were like, "Yeah, we're doing this thing called the Reason Rally next year," and I was like, if there's a spot for me, sign me up, kind of thing. So, I put it to them that I was super keen to be part of it, and then you just wait and see if they come back. And then a few months ago, they were like, "Hey, we want you to be part of this." And I was pretty happy about that.
Yeah, us too. That's really good. I learned a piece. You mentioned that you you compete with a textbook instead of like Jay-Z or Justin Bieber. And you taught me about cystic fibrosis. I went ahead and vetted it to check to see if you were real, and yep, you got it. So well done.
Yeah, well, I do brand myself as peer-reviewed rap, and I take that seriously. Like, there's nothing that I put out that I didn't show to an expert in the field and say, like, does this represent the current state of the science or not? And I take feedback seriously. And if a scientist says, you're slightly unclear about what this is, or that the thing you said in the rap was true 10 years ago, but these new findings have overturned it, I'll change my stuff. Of course, if I put out a record and the findings change after the record's released on iTunes, there's nothing I could do. But I do really want to not embarrass myself or the state of the science by promoting any misconceptions.
Right. Well, you could always have a revised remix edition.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good impetus to do constant remixes, actually, because science evolves.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, Bohr's atom could have been rapped about, and now we have Schlesinger and all that.
He's Baba Brinkman. You're listening to the Mythicist Milwaukee show. He is actually doing a comedy show the night before the Reason. Is it Friday night or is it Thursday, the comedy show?
I think it's Thursday night, actually. Yeah, Thursday.
Yeah, let's plug that for a second.
If anybody's in D.C. for that one, come check it out. Rap Guide to Evolution is going to be on.
You can go to reasonrally.org and get tickets still, I believe, for that as one of many peripheral events to what's going to be a great weekend for atheism and secularism in general. Did you see yourself as an atheist activist early on when this got started, and where do you see yourself on that spectrum? I know you're a science communicator first, but talk to us about the movement at large.
When I first started working on the Rap Guide to Evolution, I wouldn't have even called myself an atheist. I would have called myself an agnostic. I did, and I actually had my reasons for that were that I thought evolution had great explanatory power, but that there were some limits to it. Like, it could explain lots of things, but how could it explain the human capacity for the numinous or for spirituality, or how could it explain the sort of rapturous passion that goes into some artistic, creative practices? And, as a rapper, and I'm a freestyle rapper too, so I'll improvise all the time and perform on stage, and you get this feeling like, where is this coming from? It's not coming from me. So a lot of rappers are like, I'm channeling the spirits. And, I'm not sure that I would have really signed up to that, but let's say like 6 or 7 years ago, I would have been like, who am I to say that a rapper is not really channeling spirits, And then basically, as I was researching this Rap Guide to Evolution project, I was reading all these evolutionary psychology accounts of how spirituality, religion, and artistic practice can evolve and actually have like either a sexual or a natural selective adaptive benefit. And so once I read those accounts, I kind of, the last walls between me and atheism fell away. I was like, there's really nothing left that makes me say I think there's got to be something more to it than a materialist account of how we got here and how we got good at the things we're good at. So then that's what I kind of made the show about is the explanatory power of evolution is so amazing. It can even, it's the acid that dissolves the last barriers of superstition in your mind. If you think there's something that can't be explained by evolution that has to do with biology, I don't think you're really thinking about evolution properly, because it really is. It's the whole story.
That makes sense. Did you ever get intimidated? You said you had 6 months to crank out like an album about this. Wow, what if I don't get this done, or what if it doesn't sound right?
Yeah, well, I think the peer review process helps. I do send drafts to the scientists, and I get guidance as I go. But also, I'm educated. I got a master's degree. I really see this as very similar to composing essays when I was a grad student. You got to and 6 months is ridiculously long, because if you're a student, you've got a semester, 3.5 months. You have to digest all the literature and turn in a thesis paper at the end, and it's got to be 20 pages of the state of the art on whatever the subject is, and bring some new ideas to the table. So really, I approach making a record a lot like I approached writing essays and articles as a grad student. And the only difference really is that it's rhymes and has a beat under it.
Sounds like you came at this as an agnostic. What's your background? Were you raised without religion, or where'd you come from there?
I was raised in a very new age spiritual community. So I'm from Vancouver, British Columbia, and this is home of a lot of crystal therapists and homeopathy and Reiki and remote healing mumbo jumbo. And so a lot of that stuff, I was kind of like, well, it doesn't really seem to have a great evidence base, but who am I to say that it's not doing anything at all? So that was a lot of the source of my agnosticism. Might have just been like giving my friends the benefit of the doubt that they're not kooky. because I kind of grew up around people that believe, and you know, a lot of my friends and family that I grew up with still believe all that. So part of the process of going from agnostic to atheist was also, you know, realizing that most of this alternative medicine stuff is placebo based and a sham, and you know, a lot of other things that I would have, you know, let's say I grew up around a lot of people who were prone to say things like, you know, it was crazy that couldn't have been a coincidence, kismet, like the cosmos, karma, stuff like that, you know. So that's the kind of stuff that I had to get skeptical about. I never had organized religion, but I had, like, you know, superstition and spirituality all around me.
But you did go to, I read on Wikipedia, a democratic school or a democratic high school. I'd never heard one of those. Yeah,
it's you know, sort of designed around Robert's Rules of Order. So you run the classes kind of like committees, and you have like a chair of the class that calls the class to order. And the idea is to sort of foster a sense of citizen responsibility and active participation. So you know, I think that was really good, actually. That was a good ethic to instill in a young person. There were aspects of it. It was a very small school, let's say, so I didn't really have the like mainstream high school experience, which means I didn't, you know, and I also went to a school that I didn't really live near any of the other kids that went to the school. Everybody commuted in from all over the city, so you don't have a natural like community. I'm not super close friends with a lot of people from high school like I might have been if I went to school with all the kids from my block. But on the other hand, you know, there was a lot of new ideas I was exposed to young that I appreciate. The sort of the broadening perspective effect of it.
Is the name Baba a result of that community you were brought up in, or is that a rap handle, or is that a nickname? Tell us about that.
That is my dad. He was into the Eastern mysticism, and in Hindu and Sanskrit culture, the Babas are the holy men and the mystics. Baba Ram Dass, Sai Baba, these guys that you look to for guidance on achieving enlightenment. And apparently when I was born with a contemplative expression, just sort of looking around the room and looking people in the eye, and I wasn't crying or didn't seem to have much trauma from the birth experience. I don't know how rare that is, but for my dad, he was like, this kid is a Baba.
He's a little Baba.
He thought that was evidence that I was a reincarnated enlightened Dalai Lama from a past life. So that became, but that's not my legal name. That's a nickname that I had since the day I was born. My real name is Dirk, but I just don't use Dirk. I just use Baba. It became my rap name when I got on stage.
Yeah, Dirk had different connotative.
But Baba's great. You were born in a state of nirvana and have gotten away from it. So you've done the reverse.
I was hoping that would be the answer.
There's aspects of the name that have become more and more ironic the more skeptical I've become. But in a way, you could just see a Baba in traditional Hindu culture as a teacher that points you towards the truth. Their version of the truth may have had a spiritualist undercurrent, but you know, I still see myself as a sort of teacher and maybe guru of rationalism and skepticism, as long as you put scare quotes around the word guru.
Yeah, no, Brad. Gandhi's close followers called him Baba, I believe. That's that
exactly.
title
That's
of
the culture.
Yeah, very good. Well, we really thank you for joining us. It's a busy day for you in Manhattan, so we'll let you jump and get back to it. You got any last words for us? Any thoughts? What we should look for from you besides Reason Rally coming up soon?
Well, I would encourage your listeners to go check out my album, Rap Guide to Religion, which is on iTunes and Bandcamp and Amazon and Spotify. And, you know, if you're interested in the sort of scientific picture of what religion is beyond the normal, you know, the normal atheist rationalist response is religion is just like fear and superstition and weakness or whatever. But I think there's more to it than that. And there's a whole emerging field, evolutionary religious studies, that shows ways in which religious behavior has been sort of techniques for solving adaptive problems in our species history. So that's the story I try to tell with that record. And, you know, if you like that one, I got like a bunch more. Yeah. Check out the catalog. It's a whole education on your iPod.
Yeah, we'll close here with your song "Religion Evolves," and that I think that's great. I love talking to you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, and we'll let you get back to it, man. See you in June.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, Baba. Have a good one.
Peace.
He's Baba Brinkman with "Religion Evolves."
Religion evolves. You can watch it. It evolves. I spent my whole life perplexed by religiousness. Front doorstep debating with Jehovah's Witnesses. I was a teenaged empirical thinker, a spiritual seeker, obsessed with rap. I considered it lyrical research. This was the medium that I could think and speak in. Flipping ridiculous figures of speech over beats like every weekend. My CD collection became my personal gospel. I was an apostle, like Thomas, wondering was it impossible to rock shows and still be thoughtful? So paradoxical, speaking in tongues all over the drums like Pentecostals. I figured if I could master the craft, I could start a new religion devoid of superstition. A descendant of secular humanism with the ecstatic rituals of ancient mystical shamanistical visions, except based on philosophical naturalism, which means no counterfactual claims, no supernatural, nothing but reason and evidence. Troops salute the rational. In my religion the truth is sacred and science adjudicates it, and meditation is cool if you want to find your Buddha nature. But human nature exists too, and it's not rude to face it. Enlightenment comes when we understand how evolution shapes it. It's a demon-haunted world. You can take it from Carl Sagan, whether Christian or pagan. Religion evolves, whether it benefits one of us or whether it benefits all. Adaptive problems are gonna get solved. Religion evolves. The bigger the scale of a society, the bigger the gods. People get along when someone's watching them. Religion evolves. We'll send a rocket on a mad mission to Mars. If the holy wars don't kill us first, let's hope religion evolves. I'll turn my religion upon itself like an Ouroboros. Religion evolves. It adapts. Ask a biologist, a cognitive psychologist, a sociologist, an anthropologist, a behavioral ecologist. Religion is all of this. 2 or 3 new religions get founded a day. They're just like rap artists. Most of them won't be around in a decade. They all compete for space and followers and human devotion. Religion evolves, cause many are called but few are chosen. Approximately 10,000 religions are currently active. So forgive me if I don't ask which exact version you practice. Chances are, flip of a coin is probably Abrahamic. Half the planet is either Christian or Jewish or Islamic. We can track the demographics, study the epidemiology, but human beings have been religious since before the Holocene, 12,000 years ago. Agricultural revolution. Prior to that, most of our significant evolution, small-scale societies surviving in the Pleistocene had a strong incentive to unite like a hive of bees. Religion is a device for binding people tribally, and if you're in my tribal, then I'll die for you, you'll die for me. It's a demon-haunted world. You can take it from Carl Sagan, whether Christian or pagan. Religion evolves, whether it benefits one of us or whether it benefits all. Adaptive problems are gonna get solved. Religion evolves. The bigger the scale of a society, the bigger the gods. People get along when someone's watching them. Religion evolves. We'll send a rocket on a mad mission to Mars. If the holy wars don't kill us first, let's hope religion evolves. Religion is an evolved mental technology, definitely. But did it evolve culturally, or did it evolve genetically? Or is it a byproduct of several other mental capacities that evolved independently and separately function adaptively, like agency detection systems triggered hyperactively, or theory of mind, which means reading people tactically, like, I know what you're thinking, who the hell is Baba Brinkman? Is he some kind of cross between a prof and juvenile delinquent? Yeah, that's right, that's what I am. Now let's get back to the question at hand. I have a conscious mind and I'll try to predict your thoughts as best I can. And I predict you've never considered what religion is adapted for. Or if you have, then I predict you've never heard it rap before. So how do I know it's adaptive? I mean, it could be random drift. It could be a byproduct of something else that has adaptiveness, like your belly button, which is amazing, but it's not really for navel gazing. Nah, it's a side effect of your umbilical cord. So religion might be a viral meme that's parasitic, or it might be an adaptation for maximizing descendants. It might benefit individuals, or it might benefit whole groups, or it might be the invention of cynical priests trying to control you, or it might be a belly button byproduct, or adaptive in the past and maladaptive in the present. Those are good questions to ask, and science can find the answers, and the answers are non-obvious, except for the answer to where religion doesn't come from: divine providence.
Good stuff. Baba educating the public with science-oriented rap. Really complicated stuff. I used to sit down and think about that to come up with that stuff. I wasn't sure what to expect when I first started listening to it, you know, because I had in mind, you know, like a Nickelodeon show, But it's like that's not for 5-year-olds.
Oh, no,
stuff. It's
definitely not.
So interesting to hear from me that his audience, especially in New York off-Broadway, just included theater goers, and people are like, all right, I'll go check this out. So I imagine busloads of little kids, lining up to.
No, it's college level stuff. Like in the Rap Guide to Medicine, he talked about cystic fibrosis being a recessive autosomal disorder, and talked about how a heterozygous, when you only have one of the alleles, you actually gain a resistance to tuberculosis, and then compared it to the malaria
fibrosis
resistance
and
that you would
tuberculosis
get for cystic fibrosis. I mean, you've got to be a medicine nerd or a biology nerd to get that, of which I think I qualify, but I liked it. And
I don't pretend to be on your level of biological knowledge, but I did pay attention, and I did, when I started listening, I'm like, okay, this is something that at least, is college, like you said, college level. It's not, it's not kiddie rap. So, congratulations to him, man. He's out there doing it. And from Canada, I didn't realize originally until I read his bio that he was Canadian. So, kudos to the Great White North for contributing to secularism. It's time we promoted our own crap. We've had like a 20-minute show. And haven't talked too much about this stuff we're doing. We really appreciate the growth of the show, and we want to thank all the listeners, and I want to thank the team especially. None of us could do it without the support of everybody, and we didn't have any kind of real engineer before Jason came along and made huge improvements, and the research that Brian does every week, and Antonio with Myth of the Day, and Sean's tireless work as producer. It makes my job easy as the blabbermouth, really. And hard to believe we've been doing it for a year and a half, and there's been like that. That means there's been 75 guests or something. We could go down and look through the catalog of the stuff we've done. And it's been really, really fulfilling. And thanks to everybody who tunes in and all the new listeners. Welcome. Please go to mythicistmilwaukee.com and sign up for a membership or support the Patreon.
Or give us your feedback in any way.
Yeah,
if there's
please,
something you want to hear, let us know.
Yeah, we'll play requests. We'll Stairway to Heaven.
That's right. Rob will be a jukebox.
Stairway to Heaven for the Atheist podcast. But this is the podcast that puts God last, and besides the podcast, we are involved in about 1 million things, and one of those is the Buzz Belief series. We want to make sure everybody looks at that. Gets a ticket now while they're less money than they are at the door in October, when there might not even be
half
seats
price,
available.
but is ending soon. October 21st. You want to go with this epic debate?
It's half price for the whole Robert Price and his
Bart
counterpart Bart Ehrman.
Maybe his last debate. Who knows?
Maybe his last. Maybe his. He's been a hard one to pin down, but we finally did it thanks to the great help that we have from our benefactors, and that's going to happen October 21st. Is it?
Yes,
I
that's
should
right.
memorize it sooner or later here, since I'm going to be there, doing my thing.
Well, you've been working hard on the Reason Rally.
Yeah, it's. Thanks for bringing it up. It's been a challenge, and we're down to the last 2 or 3 weeks, and between the Batman and Jesus trailer, which we're happy that will be shown right at 6:00, man.
Right, the Batman and Jesus movie that we're working on will compare mythological parallels between religions and Batman. It's going to be cool. There's going to be a great trailer at the Reason Rally. We're really excited that that's getting out there. That trailer is being worked on as we speak.
It's a different genre, too. I think that there's mockumentaries and there's documentaries, and this is neither. It's kind of a new type of fiction, that's also a documentary. That's hard for me to pin down what type of movie it is, but it'll be funny. It's got a plot of its own that points out the parallels between modern mythologies and ancient ones. So I'm looking forward to it. I don't think there's been anything like it ever, and we hope to correct a lot of mistakes made originally by the Zeitgeist movie that got us all started on this wacky road of mythicism.
That's right. And the creative genius behind this product is a guy I like to call Father Joseph, which you can see some of his work if you Google Mythicist Milwaukee, and holy shit, you will get some of a preview of his work. This is really going to be a fantastic movie when it comes out.
Funny stuff in the Holy Shit series. A lot of great acting, some good voiceover work involved there, and should soon be on Atheism TV, and that's exciting too. That's a slow-moving machine, but sooner or later it'll join the lineup of the fine atheistic programming on Atheism TV, so check that out.
So Google Batman and Jesus and buy your tickets while they're half price to the Myth Information Conference 3 with Bart Ehrman and Robert Price debating.
You got a myth of the day for us, Antonio?
Yes, I do.
Very breathy.
Antonio.
Yes, I do.
Here he is, in fact, the Mythmeister, the minister of mythicism himself, with Myth of the Day. Take it away, Antonio.
Thank you very much, and it was great to have Baba Brinkman on the show today. I'd like to, as always, start out and say thank you to all those that have liked or retweeted Baba's presence on the show today. Thank you to at Craft Free Thinkers and Helmo. Thank you to Miguel Connor at Aeon Byte.
Listen to Aeon Byte Radio.
Thank you to James Lawson at me_Jason Lawson.
James.
Thank
Jason's
you to Megan
twin brother,
Ivanyos at Ivanyos.
Some people say Ivanyos, but that's all right.
Thank you to Melissa Pugh, president of Atheist Alliance of America,
Melly P.
at MellyP80. Thank you to Godless Engineer.
Godless. On the team now. Love you,
And
Godless.
interestingly, we have Broken Records at Copacetic Souls, a hip-hop individual from Vancouver, Illegitimate.
You just heard that because that's where Bob is from. I bet there's a connection.
And Kristen Hood at Kristen Hood 1, and also James Kirk Wall.
We don't give that Kristen Hood chick enough credit, man. She's great, and she does so much for the team. And I was going for the credit list before. She is right at the top of that, so we make sure we thank her for all her hard work. It's
Yeah, and
contributed
also don't
seriously
forget
so
to
much.
mention her find, that individual that hyped up our show. We need to make sure that we
Good
get
call,
him
man. On
after
Google
the...
Plus, we got a really good review from a guy on Google Plus. And
All right, well, let's get him after the myth of the day.
Yeah,
So
do
I'll
Myth
start
of the
that
day,
now.
and I'll look for it, man. Go.
So Justin Martyr, also known as Saint Justin, was an early Christian apologist and is regarded as the foremost interpreter of the theory of the Logos in the 2nd century. In Christianity, Logos is a name or title of Jesus Christ, seen as a pre-existent second person of God according to the doctrine of the Trinity. So in continuation, he was martyred alongside some of his students and is considered a saint by the Roman Catholic Church, the Anglican Church, and the Eastern Orthodox Church. So Justin Martyr said, "And when we say also that the Word, who is the first birth God, was produced without sexual union, and that he, Jesus Christ, our teacher, was crucified and died and rose again and ascended into heaven, we propound nothing different from what you believe regarding those whom you esteem sons of Jupiter." In another writing, Justin Martyr wrote, "He was born of a virgin, except this in common with what you believe of Perseus." Well, since this passionate defender of Christianity himself made the comparison between Jesus Christ and the cross and pagan figures in cruciform or affixed to crosses, we would be remiss to not follow his lead. And that is our myth of the day.
Thank you, Antonio. And we are thankful as well to M. Maximus S. 1975 on Google Plus for the fantastic recommendation. So thanks to everybody.
Yeah, speaking of rappers and myth of the day, I mean, did Coolio really start a fight with Weird Al when he made, the white guy rap, or the white and nerdy instead of Rollin' Dirty?
Question for the rap
Or
experts.
was it the
when
other
we
one?
convene
What
in
a-
Washington.
No, with Coolio, it wasn't that one. That's Chamillionaire. It's the Amish Paradise for Gangster's Paradise. Is that a real thing? Was there really a fight there?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. Look it up. Could be.
We'll have to find out. Maybe someone knows when we get to Washington.
Yeah. The fact that I couldn't just get Coolio from Chamillionaire means I know nothing about rap.
We got another show coming up at the regular time at 2 o'clock. It's Ken Fader. He's a professor, and he's an archaeologist.
Yes. Ken Vader.
What did I do? Oh. Yeah, sorry. Dropped my phone.
I'm just embarrassed that I'm not hip.
Yeah, well, I'll be back at the regular time for 2 o'clock for Ken Fader. Can't wait to talk to him because I'm all about that actual stuff you can touch, man. Sooner or later, all the myth theory stuff, it tends to put me to sleep when we get into, the real fine details and the argumentative results of the research that different people do on the same thing. But if you got something that came out of the ground, man, a fossil
right.
or an artifact or a thing, man, that's real,
Somebody smacks you over the head with a soapstone, it wakes you up.
That's right. So,
Okay.
Here we have Ken Fader, and he's from Connecticut, my home state.
Booyah.
And both my parents actually grads from the system of Connecticut State Colleges, where he teaches at Central. So we're looking forward to that at 2. And then we actually will be guests on Phil Ferguson's show.
That's
He
right.
was on with us, and he was very funny for an accountant. Actually, made me think different about accountants. He was such a droll, hilarious guy.
Yes.
And also a big Reason Rally dude, the treasurer, in fact, of the Reason Rally. So a busy day of podcasts for us. Join us again at 2. Does anybody have anything else to add
No,
before
we're
we
gonna wrap that up at the big boat.
quit boring the public? I guess that's it. Thanks a lot, everybody, for listening. We'll see you again at 2 o'clock.
All
Bye-bye.
right, take care.